So what about design? How important is design to you when you're looking at a company? Does it matter? Does it not matter? If it crosses a certain threshold of sort of, quality, is that good enough? I mean, how do you look at that?
It's a good
Do you think
question.
it makes a difference in terms of, companies that win and lose, or are there diminishing returns?
No, I absolutely do. I think the more product first an organization can be, the better. Oh, it's just obvious. It's an obvious statement, right? But the more intuitive, the more, aesthetically pleasing, more obvious that a product can be to the end customer is obviously better. And the less that we have to spend on CS to train people, customer support, right? To train people,
Yep.
educate them, keep them up to date, et cetera, the better, right? And I think the CRM market is a prime example of how that can be an issue, right? You look at all the plethora of businesses that have been built around integrating and implementing large CRM systems,
Right.
or
You buy
ERP
a
systems.
system and you have to hire a consultant to help you set it up and then teach you how to use it. Right.
Right, and then
Yeah.
continue to be there as admin support, right? It's obviously a very critically important platform that just requires so much oversight in its usage, and in a lot of ways, like in EHR, is that way as well.
Mhm.
So to the extent possible, the better a product, the more intuitive a product can be to cut out some of that fat, obviously the better. But I will say it is a lot harder in a health system to build those kind of products because integration into your EHR is going to be super hard. Training your doctors, if it touches a clinician, super hard.
Mhm.
Just changing general processes, hard. There's just so much you have to do. So, the extent possible, yes. I think one place where it's really relevant is in anything that touches the end consumer. So I spent a lot of time
Absolutely.
talking about provider IT, right? But like one of our portfolio companies is a company called Healthjoy, and Healthjoy is a member experience platform. So, you work at XYZ company and you've got all these benefits, and they're all in, myriad different locations, and have a variety of different ways to access them. And Healthjoy exists to stitch those all together.
The customer experience is the product, essentially. That's
It's
what.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's the product, right? And in fact, we partner with a lot of different of the modules that we stitch together. Some we do in house, right? But that is the product, and it's crazy how valuable that product is because it's so hard to navigate all of your benefits, right? And in that case, like it's paramount that Healthjoy is extremely intuitive for both, your ben admins, right? And your brokers, your benefits consultants as well, and for the end consumer. It just has to work super well. You can't have, a one-to-one rep relationship with employees when you're working with a 5,000 employee organization and, all their employees are on it, plus all their families, right? Like that's disastrous. It has to be a product first, organization. And that's just going to be apparent across, any employer type strategy.
Anything that touches the end consumer, design becomes super important, because at the end of the day, too, you can't force them. With an internal product, right? If you're selling something that's going to be used by somebody on the internal IT team of a big hospital system or something, right? Like they can tell that person, hey, you're going to sit down and do 2 days of training to learn how to use this thing that we purchased that you are now required to use, and you're going to figure it out, right? With a consumer, they're either going to use it or they're not, and if it's hard, if it's difficult, if it's confusing, particularly around something like healthcare, which can be stressful, right? There's accessibility issues. You have people that are using stuff, when they're maybe not at their absolute best. Like you really do want to lower the friction as much as humanly possible to make sure people really use this stuff.